Right, so good evening everyone and welcome to Monaco. This is European Racing Organization season 5 and we are in the F4 division, round 11 of this season, and we have a very challenging track ahead of us. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me, please. Let me know if I'm audible, and we should be starting soon. We are waiting for a couple of drivers to join who are not able to join so far, so let's hope they can sort out those issues and join. So let's wait for a minute or so, but we should be going soon. Yeah, thank you for the confirmation that you can hear me. So let me know what are your predictions for this race. I am not sure if you have been following this division, but what do you think? How many safety cars do you predict? Who do you think is going to be on pole, and who will be your podium finishers if you have to predict right now? We will be taking a look at the championship standings during the session, so we will wait for that. And let's see, we have 17 drivers with us today. We expect at least one more to join if they're able to sort out those issues, and as I said, someone else has disconnected, so let's wait for a while and I will be back with you soon once this is sorted. Right, so I think our final driver has joined, which is Lexa, who had difficulties, and our host had disconnected as well. So we should have a new lobby host, I believe, who is JJT in the Mercedes. So yeah, so people are predicting two, maybe three safety cars. It's a 35 lap race, should be an easy one stopper, and I see people are readying up now. So 18 drivers, that's a really good turnout considering it's Monaco, and let's hope we have as many finishers as possible at the end of those 35 laps. Right, so people watching the stream, or rather drivers in F4 watching the stream, good luck and keep it clean, and we will see you on the other side. Right, Arav, I cannot give IPL update during the race. So for those who don't know IPL, it's an Indian Premier League. It's a cricket tournament which is held usually this time of the year, and I've been requested by people to give an update on that, which I really can't. I don't follow cricket, nor am I watching it right now. So I hope you're focusing on the race. Arav, who's also known as Vicky, and he is in the Ferrari, I believe. Right, So we have a couple of drivers already out on the track, and let's follow JJT. Let me know in the comments if you know his name, otherwise I will have to use his PSN while talking about him. He's on the soft tires for now, and he will be one of the first people, rather the first person to set up a lap around this circuit. Right, so Vicky, you are in Alpha. My mistake there, as JJT has let a Renault through. So let's see who that is. That's Hansen, I believe then? Yeah, it is Hansen. So Hansen will be our first driver. He's running the Renault with a number 95 there. And let's follow his lap as he goes a little bit deep in Raskas. And let's follow this lap around Monaco. As he starts the lap, he goes into the third gear, avoids the curve on the inside, just took a little bit of it, onto gear rivage, and then it's tricky section over here, ensuring you don't hit the wall, up to Casino, and navigates it rather nicely, avoids the bump on the left, and takes the mirror bro nicely up to the hairpin, where a lot of drivers have gone into first gear. He does as well. Minimum speed of around 40 kilometers. It's a sharp right. A couple of right-handers here before he starts on the corner. He goes a little bit out of the shade there as he approaches tunnel section, so he must have lost quite some time there, maybe 2 or 3 tenths there. As he brakes hard for the Nouvelle chicane and takes that, avoids getting an invalidation, so he will keep this lap time if he keeps it clean. On to Tabak, and that seemed clean through the semi-full section as he has touched the barrier and has invalidated, rather has not invalidated, but his lap time will be suffering as well. As we're following Redzak, he is racing today. He has missed a few races this season for F4, as Hansen puts the first time on board the 113.6, which should be beaten soon. It has. So Hansen is retired actually. I'm not sure where that is. That is... he's retired. I think that was turn 1 when he retired. As Will now puts 11.2. So the time will trickle down here. And since we have a midnight session here, this is a different experience altogether for the drivers. A very challenging track, and 47 gear shifts I believe for every track on an average, for every lap around this. As Jules Sandy, the championship leader, goes fastest by 6 tenths. So that's a really good lap time, and if he wants to retain his championship lead and gain a little bit more advantage over his competitors, he would want to be on pole. Let's follow Racing UPT, who had joined the league a little bit late, if I believe, but has gone a full-time Ferrari seat for now, and he in fact won the Italian Grand Prix Monza. He stayed out on those really old wet tires and won the race with Jules Santi just a couple of tenths behind him. That was a really good race. Do check that out if you haven't so far. And let's follow this lap around Monaco as he approaches the intersection, as he's riding beyond a couple of wings there. So gets a little bit out of shape there up in the single section, but into Raskas now. Brakes nice, and that's a good turning from him. And this should be a good lap from Racing UPT, as he just rides the curve a little bit too hard than he would have wanted to. And that's a lap which puts him P4 with the 11.7. So quite a few laps already done, and let's follow Keru. He's on the mediums, it seems. No, he's on the softs, but I think his best time or his previous run would have been on the mediums, but he's on the softs now, and he should be looking competitive here as he approaches fourth gear and into the tunnel now, and his next point of focus would be braking for the Newell chicane as he's on the right, and that's very nicely done. And he loses the traction coming out of the chicane. So let's see if he has enough fuel on board to go for another lap. Let's ride with him for a bit and see if he can. Does he come into the pits, or as we have a Williams driver in racing use, if that's a correct pronunciation, and it's put up 109.7. That's almost a second faster than the man in P2, which is our championship leader. Right, so that's a real statement from Racing US, and let's see how the drivers respond to his time. As I'll just reduce the game volume a little bit. I think it's too high right now, so let me just reduce the game volume by a click, and yeah, I think this is probably better now. Right, so that's the first round of runs done in terms of qualifying. We have Racing Use in P1 in the Mercedes, and Youth Santi is in P2, Vicky in P3. So Alfa Romeo are P2 and P3. That's a really good position for them as they are leading the championship as well in terms of the Constructors' Championship. Racing UPT and Villeneuve in P4 and P5. The Ferrari boys are just behind the people in the Haas in terms of constructors, and behind them is JT in the Mercedes, and Cycle, who I believe is P2 in the championship, is P8. Adam Baker, he is on an out lap right now, and let's follow his lap actually around this Monaco circuit. He starts his second hot lap here. He's on the soft tires, and I think that was a good turn one by him in that Racing Point car, as that was probably his teammate who was letting him through, as it's difficult on the circuit since it's so narrow and walls, as he puts a purple sector 1. So this is going really nicely for him, and let's follow on board with him. He goes to gear 1, takes a lot of curb on the inside, but hasn't compromised his lap time, and this right-hander is really important, the exit of it, because that's probably one of the longest straights on the circuit right now, where you are going full man, and righty boy does get out of the way, and if Slimicam can also keep it clean, he does. So this should be a good lap. On into Tapak, throws it into the 5th gear, now coming to the swimming pool section, and that was clean as well, as Adam has really hooked up his car here. This looks really smooth, and let's hope he can challenge the top guys here as he finishes the lap. And yeah, that's a good exit from him. So as we wait on the line, let's see what the time is. That's P5. That's a really good lap from Adam. He puts in 11.1, and that is a really good lap, and that would mean that there are 2 cars now between the 2 Ferraris, as they would hope that Villeneuve and as Lexa, what a time from Lexa. He is in P2, so that's a good time from Lexa, as we're following Lees here, and he seems to be either on an in lap or an out lap. So we'll follow someone else who is on a lap. I think Cycle will be on a lap. He is. So let's follow the Racing Point, as we saw Adam put in a time which put him P5 for the moment. Now he's in P6, and let's follow the other Racing Point in Cycle and see what kind of time he puts in, as he goes really deep there into the hairpin. The Cycle, does he keep his time? We'll have to see how much he has lost the time, if he at all. as Keru goes P6 now, so that's a good lap time from him. And Cycle keeps his time for now, and once we approach the split for sector 2, that's when we'll know if through this goes. He's up by 3 tenths, so this is looking good. As Iron Knight has retired, I think that is in the pits, so that will not really affect anyone else's hot laps. As round the final corner, a bit of a slide at the exit of the racing point, and let's see where this lap puts him. He has not really improved much. He has improved his time, but not his position, as he remains P13. And let's follow Racing UPT, who is a second faster. So this should be a really good lap as we ride on board with him. And that's the commentator's curse, I should say, as he lost it at the exit of that chicane, and he was looking really good there. And his time is P2 with a 10.4, but I believe it would have been really much faster than that had he not lost the car there. Let's see if Lees is on a lap. He is not. He is on an out lap. Right, so I think that's the second round of runs done, and drivers will be waiting for the track to grip up a little bit more before they can. So I think that's Jude Sandy, the championship leader, on a lap in that Alfa Romeo. So let's follow this lap, and he's up by a 10th in the first sector as he approaches the Grand Hotel hairpin now. Avoids the curb, probably the better idea, not to lose time and traction over there. And round he goes through Portier into the tunnel now, and will be approaching the Novel chicane in just a couple of seconds. Let's see how he gets his braking. That's nicely done, and the curb is taken nicely as well, and a decent exit as he approaches step back. He keeps it in 6th instead of going to 5th. So let's see how this turns out. He's up by 3.5 tenths, so this should be an improvement from him in terms of time as well as position, provided he keeps the final sector clean. As Will now has retired in this section, and that is a swimming pool section he's going through. As Jude Santy crosses the line, he goes P2 with a 1 of 10.2, but it seems like all these times are not fast enough to challenge Racing News in P1. He is still holding the pole position by more than 4 tenths right now. So that is a real statement from him, and he is looking in prime position to start on pole. As let's follow Slimicam now. He's going to the sector 1. He's on a set of mediums, so trying an alternate strategy. Let's see if it works out for him. He's down by just 600 of a second, so still plenty of time in this lap, and maybe he can pull out a better lap to give him that strategy advantage going into the race. It will be a Midnighters is Racing News puts up 109.3. So again, just as drivers were nearing his time, he has again got that gap back to 1 second, and he should be really confident in his car right now to get that pole position. Let's follow Slimicam for now, and he's up by a couple of tenths, so that might not help his lap time. As in the other Alpha Tauri, that's Lexa, who is just started his hot lap and is just approaching the end of sector 1 now. He is up by almost 10, that's 800ths of a second, and let's see how his time progresses throughout this lap. Keeps it in second throughout that section, and now into the tunnel, keeps it to the center of the track, will drip to the right for the braking. As he does, goes to second, and I think these drivers are doing a really good job of not irritating their lap times through that chicane, because we have seen it often, and personally I struggle with that as well. As this should be, yeah, I think he does a really good job of the driver ahead, and he has just lost his wing there. He did get damage from there, so that would have impacted his aerodynamic performance. Let's see if he can improve his time. Lexa, he doesn't, So it's so close between Racing UPT and Lexa, and Racing UPT has invalidated his lap time, as that's the final set of runs which is happening right now, as Adam Baker is 2 tenths up on his time. So let's see if he can improve. He just lost a car there, and he goes a little bit deep, but not really that deep, and he should be able to put a competitive time here. He needs to improve by more than a tenth here, and he just is down a tenth rather because of that mistake, as JT is on another lap now in the Mercedes, and he is up by a tenth, and is up by just about more than half a tenth here. So let's see, does he want that P11? I think it's difficult for him right now, as we follow Cycle, who needs a really good lap here. His competitor Jude Santi, who is fighting for the championship, is in P2, and Cycle right now in P13. So he would want a good lap time, the Racing Point driver, as he goes to the first gear on the right hander. That's something which we have rarely seen, as he loses the car a little bit on the exit and through the tunnel, as Lexa retires from the session. So right, so Cycle is still on a lap, and we should be nearing, as he puts a purple sector 2, which is 3 and a bit tenths up on his previous time, and as he approaches Raskas, keeps it tidy, and this should be a good lap, I believe. And let's see where it puts him on the leaderboard. He goes P9, so that's a really good lap. He's improved by 5 tenths, more than 5 tenths. As Racing UPT is also finishing his lap right now, and let's see where he puts it. Can he get P2? He does. He does get P2, and that is a time, just the second driver to go into the 109s. It's a 109.8, so still 5 tenths away from Racing U's on pole. And if I'm not wrong, is he continuing his lap? But he's lost almost a second there, so that is tough for him, as Robin out of nowhere has come into P5 here. Let's see if anyone else is improving. So Vicky is improving, and let's see if he can get P4. He does. He does get P4, so that pushes Lexa into P5. And let's follow Kedu, who is down by a tenth, but if he can get a really good third sector, and he goes deep there. But let's finish the lap and see what he does. Does he keep his position, or does he go a little bit higher? He does. What a lap from the Japanese driver. He is P3. What a third sector. He was down by a tenth in the second sector, and that should be it. If I think, yeah, that is it. So Racing Use is on pole, with Racing UPT and Keru in P2 and P3, Slimming Cam in the Alpha Tauri in P4, Jude Santi, who is the championship leader, in P5 in the Alfa Romeo, Vicky in the Ferrari in P6, Lexa, that's the second Alpha Tauri, in P7, Robin in the McLaren in P8, Adam in P9, and Lees in P10. So that's the top 10 who have to start on those soft tires which they qualified on. And Cycle should be the first one who should have an alternate strategy advantage in P11, with Will now in the Ferrari in P12. Right, so that was a really interesting qualifying session, as just did that what a lap from Keru, and that has put him into P3. That's a really good position for the race, and if I can keep it clean, it should be a good race for him throughout, as the rest of the finishers are Righty Boy in P14, who was driving for F5 for a few races, I believe, Black Wolf in P15, Red Ziak, who is returning to F4 in P16, Henson in P17, and Zyron Knight in the McLaren in P18. So as we wait for the drivers to load their race setups, park firmware rules of course are on, so not a lot they can change except the front wing and the transmission bias as well as the tire pressures. But again, under the midnights, as we wait for the drivers, this should be a really good race, and let's hope that we don't get a lot of carnage into turn 1. So talking about the drivers championship, as we discussed earlier, Jude Santi leads the championship with 122 points. Cycle in P2 with a 95, so that's a gap of almost 30 points there. Lexa is in P3 in the Alpha Tauri with 79 points, and Jimmy Hunt, who's not racing today in the Williams, is 4th in the championship with 71 points. But this gives advantage to Keiru, who is starting P3 today in the Haas. He is P5 in the championship with 58 points, so he can gain a lot of points today on his competitors. And Iron Knight, who is starting last today in the McLaren, is 6th in the championship with 43 points. Right, so as you can see, formation lap has begun, and Racing News, who's actually reserving today for Jimmy Hunt, is on pole with Racing UPT, Keiru, Slimmy Cam and Jude Santi behind him. Those are the top 5 for you. Vicky in the Alfa Romeo in P6. So Alfa Romeo are 5 and 6, and they can really figure out the strategy in terms of pits, in terms of when to battle other cars and the ERS and all that, if they are in the same party chat. Lexa is in P7, Robin is in P8, Adam in P9, Lee's in P10. So let's see in terms of tires. Right, so as expected, Cycle in P11 has opted for the medium tires. Villeneuve has opted for hards, so that's an interesting choice. JJT in the Mercedes on the mediums as well, as is Righty Boy, and Black Wolf is on softs, so that's a really interesting decision, and I believe he would be hoping to get a really good start here to get some places before turn 1. Edziak, Hansen and Zaranet at the end of the grid are also on medium tires. As we wait for the drivers, it's 39 laps around Monaco, and as we saw on the strategy screen, it should be an easy one stop. Softs to mediums is also possible, but if you really want an undercut, because track position is key here, you could also do a soft to hards, because overtaking is really rare around this circuit, and we will talk about overtaking opportunities as well, which are into turn 1, and a couple of more as well, which we shall discuss as the race progresses. But first, the drivers are itching to get underway, and let's hope we have a really good race on our hands as we wait. And I can see all the drivers ready. So is there a lobby glitch, which it often happens? And if you have been following F4 for long, you would remember Australia when we first did it. I think that was the second or the third race of the season, where we had to restart the lobby for at least 2 times before we had to finally reschedule the race. So I hope that doesn't happen as we see the predicted pit strategy again. I believe lap 11 is way too early to pit. Probably lap 17 or 16 or 17 should be fine, or maybe even 15 if you're feeling bold. But let me check the Discord. And right, so I believe someone will have to leave the lobby and join back, because it's their car or their net connection which is causing this issue. drivers are complaining about cold tires now, as Red Ziak has left the session and my game has absolutely shot.